Hello, I'm Dr. Katherine Krefft, clinical psychologist. Got your mask yet? This is the fourth of our videos on strategies for managing anxiety during the time of coronavirus. A quick review. Our first video is about the importance of diaphragmatic breathing. This is not natural breathing. It's something that we need to learn. If no one's ever taught you how to do it, well then you don't know how to do it. An excellent short video that shows you exactly how to do diaphragmatic breathing is at the site lung.org, search breathing exercises, and you'll see a short video that shows you just exactly what diaphragmatic breathing is. One tip about diaphragmatic breathing that I can also share with you is practice it when you don't need it. When you're standing at the kitchen sink doing the dishes, that's an excellent time to practice your diaphragmatic breathing. When you get up from the couch to go to the bathroom, that's a good time, walking to the bathroom, to practice your diaphragmatic breathing. If you're going out in the backyard to get some exercise by walking around the perimeter for 5 or 10 or 15 times, pick one of those times to go ahead and practice your diaphragmatic breathing. Get the idea of diaphragmatic breathing into your brain so that when you need to do it, you will be able to launch yourself into it automatically and quickly. Our second strategy for managing anxiety, which we talked about in videos 2 and 3, are to move ourselves from a position of disconnection to connection. Social distancing does not mean emotional distancing. Whereas diaphragmatic breathing is not natural, we have to teach ourselves to do it. Being a social creature is absolutely natural to us. Being social is who we are as human beings. This gives us a feeling of connectedness, belongingness. I recommend that everyone seek as best they can to belong to at least 2 kinds of groups. One large group and one small group. Small group may be family, it may be a circle of close friends, some group that you meet with regularly, that is in ordinary times you met with this group regularly. These are the people that you turn to for connection. Connection builds community. Even something as simple as being a fan of a certain sport is helpful in building this sense of community. A famous rivalry is the one between the Yankees and the Red Sox. A Yankee wears a Yankee cap, wears the Yankee colors. If the stadium is divided into 2 sides, the Yankee fan will only sit on the Yankee side. Red Sox wear only the Red Sox ball cap and the Red Sox blue and red colors. And again, will only sit on the side for the Red Sox fans. If members of each group happen to meet in a bar after the game, there may be, we would hope, some good-natured teasing. But if someone takes a Yankee cap and plops it on the head of a Red Sox fan, that fan's going to take that cap and throw it on the floor, if not at the other fan. That's how important our social identity is with groups such as this. Such social identity helps us develop feelings of belongingness and groundedness, and that combats anxiety. If before the time of the pandemic, being connected in groups was very difficult for you, and know that there are many, many people who feel alone and feel disconnected from any group, and if that's you, then see my 3rd video in this series for suggestions of ways that you can get yourself more connected, perhaps link up by teletherapy with a therapist. This 4th video is about another strategy for managing our anxiety. This one has to do with using our thinking to manage anxiety. We human beings, we think our fear, as much as we feel our fear. We think our fear when we allow fear-provoking thinking to run through our brains unchecked. Now, the tool that we use to help us with our thinking, we call self-talk. This may be a new term to many of you. Many of you already, I know, are familiar with it. Many more probably are not yet familiar with the term self-talk. We call thinking self-talk for a very good reason. When we think about our thinking, as we did in the olden days of the 20th century, we think very passively about thinking. For example, we have the saying, "The thought went through my head." A common saying. What does that mean? Here's a thought out here. It's coming through my head. It's going through my head. It's going out the other side. What did I have to do with that? Apparently nothing. It just happened to me. We have another thought, another saying that people use. I can't stop thinking about. A thought keeps going and going and going through our head. And we have the perception, it's just happening to me. Nothing I can do about it. The thought just keeps going through my head. These sayings show that traditionally we've taken a very passive view toward our own thinking. And as long as we allow ourselves to think about our thinking that way, then we're not going to be able to use our thinking to help ourselves. So self-talk moves us to an understanding of thinking that is much more active and dynamic. The very word self-talk says, this is something I do to myself. Thinking is something that I do to myself within myself. I am in charge of my thinking. I can learn to direct my thinking. Especially when the thinking in question is a fear-provoking thought, a thought by which we scare ourselves. Start managing your thinking, your fear-based thinking, by asking yourself, what do I say to myself? Which, when I say that to myself, I get scared. Now, of course, in this time of pandemic, we're all thinking, oh, this thing might kill me. Yes, it's a deadly virus. And managing our anxiety with self-talk does not mean blissful denial of reality. What else are you saying to yourself? Recently, someone, in talking about the pandemic and their concerns for an elder loved one, said, your thoughts go to the worst place. That is so true. You go to the worst thoughts. That is fear. Fear does that to us. It is a dangerous place to be, because when we're scaring ourselves with our worst thoughts, we may be also moving ourselves away from factual reality. Even if the thought itself is real, that is, you're talking to yourself in your head about a real danger, repeating that over and over and over and over to yourself will not help anything. You will just become more and more frightened. I have a story for you, another true story about the power of self-talk. A 58-year-old man, Rob, came to me with, as we psychologists like to say, his issues. As I got to know Rob, I learned that he was a very, very smart man. He worked in a certain factory where a machine is manufactured that is used around the world. And Rob was not only in charge of making sure that those machines worked, he was in charge of the machinery that manufactured the machine. When the college boys came right out of college with their brand new degrees in civil engineering, Rob told me proudly, management places a guy with me, and this is a direct quote, so I can teach him his job. He knew his job and also told me, I can tell what's wrong with a machine by just listening to it. Rob was very, very good at what he did and very smart. But as I got to know him better, I learned that he had dropped out of school in 7th grade. My dad needed me in the shop, he said. This was way back in the 50s. He never went to high school. But at 58, he was a very knowledgeable man. He told me, I read all the time. Oh, what do you read? Everything, he said. He was keenly aware of what he had missed out on in high school. He read history. He read about science, all aspects of science, and of course, all aspects of mechanical engineering. As I got to know him better, he finally realized what had put his life on this path. Around 3rd or 4th grade, when he was 8 and 9, he was struggling mightily to learn how to read. If the sentence was, the dog slept in his bed, Rob would look at it and he would see the God slept. No, wait, God doesn't sleep. No, the dog slept in his Deb. No, Deb's a girl's name. It must be bed. He was not so much reading as using his intelligence to figure out what the words must say, to make sense of them. As Rob described what he went through, I told him, I said, oh, you must have had a verbal learning disability. A what? He said. Yeah, I said, I know. In the early 50s, we didn't know much about that. And I explained what a verbal learning disability was. He said, oh, that explains it then. Explains what, Rob? Well, when I was in 4th grade, the teacher once said to me, Rob, you're so stupid. I just couldn't figure out the words. And you know, we had to read out loud. Everybody laughed at me. I understood what he was saying. I told him, I'm so sorry that happened to you. That was not very helpful to you at all whatsoever. You are not stupid. It's very clear from what you've done with your life that you are far, far from stupid. He sighed. Oh, well, nothing I can do about it now. What? Yeah, sure there's something you can do about it. You can get a GED. A what, he said? A graduate equivalency diploma. Oh, yeah, I heard of that, but I thought that was for kids. No, you can get a GED at any age. I explained to him how to call his local school district or library or high school to find out where the local GED program was. He did so. He enrolled with his wife, who also had never finished high school. As he came in to see me while he was in the classes, he smiled. He was delighted. He said, the kids come to me for all the answers. Yeah, they came to him. It's about 45, 50 years of reading, gave him a lot of answers. He took the GED test, and so did his wife. In a month he took the GED test. He passed a course, and when I next saw him, he proudly stated, and I scored 5 points higher than my wife. His grown children, his very educated grown children, gave their parents a graduation party. This story demonstrates the power of self-talk. The power of self-talk to literally govern the course of a lifetime. This was not a stupid man, but he had the misfortune of going through school at a time when no one could help him. The teacher also was probably an excellent teacher, who in a moment of utter frustration, because no one had ever taught her about learning disabilities, so in her frustration, she said those awful words. As I've gotten to know people over the decades, I've realized that people use certain words for a reason. So my hunch is that teacher, when she was a little girl, had probably been called stupid too. That's why she used the word. She indeed may have become a teacher to prove to herself and everyone else that she was not stupid. Self-talk is a powerful tool to use to direct our course of action. Fear-provoking self-talk tells your brain and your body to continue in fear. Using your self-talk to turn that around, to use it as a tool to manage your anxiety, is critical. Now, there are many ways that you can use self-talk to help yourself with your emotions, and I'm sure you can find those on numerous websites and YouTube videos. But the one tool I'd like to offer to you in this time is something that is just much more fundamental and basic. In a time of great anxiety and great fear, the mind does not need paragraphs and paragraphs and pages of explanation. It doesn't need dissertations. It needs something surgical. It needs something sharp and to the point. So I suggest as a tool to help manage your self-talk, you choose a short statement, slogan, anthem, could be a couple of lines from a song, or prayer. Purposely choose that so that in a time of great fear, you can repeat that self-statement to yourself over and over and over to get your focus back. We need a centering focus to combat fear when fear is very, very intense. It interests me that as the pandemic began to really take hold, people spontaneously just started coming out with these slogans. We're in this together. We're home alone together. We're New York strong. California strong. Boston strong. These self-statements just spontaneously appeared to arise because that's what the mind needs when the brain is intensely plagued with fear. Something short and to the point that can help us get our focus back so that we can then employ our other strategies for fear management, like, for example, the diaphragmatic breathing and connection in some community group. Understanding that we think our fear as much as we feel our fear gives us the power to do something about that thinking. The process goes something like this. First, we think a fear-provoking thought. Our breathing alters to more like this. As soon as the brain registers that we're thinking fear-provoking thoughts along the lines of, this is dangerous to me, and then perceives that type of breathing, the brain panics. And when the brain panics, a whole cascade of physiological reactions happen in our bodies. Adrenaline and cortisol are pumped out of our adrenal glands. The oxygen level in our lungs goes down, the oxygen in our blood goes down, the oxygen level in our brain goes down. The neurotransmitters in our brain shift and change. All sorts of physical reactions happen in the body that are highly individual. Some people get headaches, some people get stomach aches, some people get sweaty palms. All of that together is one thing: fear. When you know that this is what's happening to you, you can grab hold and say, okay, what is it I'm supposed to say to myself? I'm supposed to say to myself, what's happening to me right now is I am afraid. I can be afraid and still be okay. That would be shifting from the I'm afraid to more positive self-talk. I can be afraid and still be okay. I will visit fear, but refuse to live there. Fear is something that I can and will manage. You launch right into your self-statement, your slogan, your anthem. If you've chosen a couple of lines from a song, you sing that to yourself. If you've chosen a prayer, you pray that prayer. And whatever it is, you say it over and over and over and over in your head to pull your brain away from concentrating on the fear-provoking self-talk. At that point, as you calm down, you're launching into your diaphragmatic breathing, deep breathing, push out your stomach, hold in the air, let it go gradually, do it again, and you're remembering, okay, I'm afraid, what am I supposed to do? Oh yes, that's right, one of the things I'm supposed to do is connect with family, with friends, with a group, with other people, join a mutual aid society, be part of a group. There are many other strategies for fear management, and I plan to cover some of the most helpful ones in future videos. But understanding that we think our fear as much as we feel our fear is a key concept for working with ourselves to manage fear. Change your thinking. Pull yourself away from your most dire fear-inducing thoughts. In future videos, we may have a question and answer session with local folks. One of our future videos, I'm going to concentrate on another tool called crying. Crying is something that's happening already, so we might as well talk about it and talk about how to cry in a healthy way. And in that video, I'll have special words for doctors and nurses and hospital administrators and nursing home people to deal in the moment with the fear that this terrible pandemic is causing. Another video will be for parents and teachers about how to work with children on these concepts and help them to learn to manage fear. Teach a child at a young age to be emotionally open, and they'll have that with them for the rest of their lives. Another video will be on looking at how other emotions like grief and anger interface with fear and how we can constructively handle those emotions. There's no one emotion management technique that is some magical solution to managing anxiety and all our emotions. So to sum up, facing your fear means facing your fear-provoking self-talk and purposely changing it. Misunderstanding our emotions, we're at risk of turning a time of great physical and emotional suffering into a time of mental confusion as well. We don't need that. It is our rational thinking that will get us out of this. This is indeed a time in which we need to all remind ourselves that we're in this together. Visit fear, but refuse to live there. Wear your mask and figure out what self-talk you need to use for yourself to help yourself manage your anxiety. Heaven is with us. May your angels bless you.